On March 25, 2026, the president of Brazil stood on a runway in São Paulo and watched a fighter jet roll out of a hangar. He then boarded a plane and flew escorted by that jet. Afterwards, he said it was a very symbolic moment that Brazil had flown its own jet, built on its own soil, proving to the world that this is a country that believes in itself, invests in technology, and reaffirms its sovereignty. Almost no international outlet covered this. This is not just a military story. It's a story about how a developing country used a single arms deal to rewrite its position in the global power structure. And it all started with a very unusual question. What if, instead of just buying fighter jets, Brazil insisted on learning how to build them? To understand why March 25th matters, we need to go back to 2013. Brazil's Air Force was in trouble. Its fleet of Mirage 2000 fighters, French jets already aging, were being retired. The country needed a replacement, not just any plane. Brazil needed a modern multi-role fighter capable of defending 8.5 million square kilometers of territory, the largest country in South America, home to the world's biggest rainforest and some of the most strategic airspace in the Western Hemisphere. The competition was fierce. Boeing pushed its F-A-18 Super Hornet, a proven American platform. France offered the Dassault Rafale, arguably the most advanced fighter in the competition. Sweden proposed the Saab Gripen E, lighter, more affordable, and less well-known. On paper, the Rafale should have won. But Brazil didn't choose on performance alone. They had one condition, non-negotiable: full technology transfer. We don't just want the jet, we want to learn how to build it. France said no. The United States said no. Sweden said yes. In 2013, Brazil signed a contract with Saab, worth approximately $4 billion, 36 aircraft, 2 simulators, and the knowledge to build them. What happened next took 13 years. The aircraft is called the F-39E Gripen. Built by Saab, it's a light, single-engine, multi-role fighter. It can reach 2,400 kilometers per hour, roughly twice the speed of sound. That's the distance from Rio de Janeiro to São Paulo in about 12 minutes. In late 2025, the Brazilian Air Force achieved full operational capability, the point where a weapon system is truly combat-ready. They got there through 3 milestones. First, aerial refueling. The Gripen refueled mid-flight from Brazil's own Embraer KC-390. This means the jet can sustain long-range missions without landing. Second, the Meteor missile, the MBDA Meteor, one of the most advanced air-to-air weapons ever built. Range, over 150 kilometers. 2 missiles hit their targets with precision. Brazil now has one of the most capable beyond visual range systems in the region. Third, live fire with the 27mm Mauser cannon. Full combat readiness confirmed. As of February 2026, the Gripen is on permanent air defense alert, protecting the skies over Brasilia. But here's the thing. The real story isn't what the jet can do, it's where it was built. In Gavião Peixoto, São Paulo, inside Embraer's facilities, 350 Brazilian engineers trained in Sweden. They learned every step, from fuselage assembly to cockpit integration. The aircraft required between 8,000 and 9,000 hours of work. 90% of the assembly team is Brazilian. The jet, baptized by President Lula on March 25th, registration FAB 4109, is the result of all of that. It is the first supersonic combat aircraft ever assembled in Latin America. Now here's where the geopolitics gets interesting. Brazil's demand for technology transfer wasn't just about having jets, it was about strategic autonomy, a concept at the core of Brazilian foreign policy for decades. The idea is simple. A country that depends entirely on foreign suppliers for its security is not truly sovereign. With the Gripen, Brazil is doing something almost no developing nation has managed, using a defense contract to build an industrial capability that extends far beyond the military. The cockpit displays for the Brazilian Gripen were developed by AEL Sistemas, a company based in Porto Alegre. Those same components are now being offered on Gripen orders worldwide. Brazil isn't just a buyer anymore, it's a supplier. The program has already generated over 2,000 direct jobs and 10,000 indirect jobs across the Brazilian economy. And the ambition goes further. The Embraer production line in Gavião Peixoto is designed not just to build Brazil's jets, but to serve as an export hub. Colombia just ordered 17 Gripens. Peru chose the Gripen, then switched to the F-16 under US pressure. The battle for Latin America's skies is far from over. Consider this. Canada is currently evaluating the Gripen as an alternative to the F-35. And if Canada moves forward, some of those aircraft could be assembled in Brazil. Think about what that means. A country in the global south potentially supplying fighter jets to a G7 nation. But I want to be honest about the shadow side of this story. Brazil currently operates only 11 F-39E Gripens. Full delivery of all 36 contracted aircraft won't be complete until 2032, delayed by budget constraints and production challenges. The Air Force has warned legislators about what they call an apagão, a blackout, a capability gap as older jets retire before the Gripen fleet reaches full strength. This is the tension at the heart of Brazil's defense strategy: ambitious long-term vision, constrained short-term reality. What happened in Gavião Peixoto on March 25th is easy to miss. The Brazilian press covered it, but the international media almost silent. No front-page story in the New York Times, no BBC special. Just a president with a bottle of champagne standing next to an airplane. But for anyone paying attention to how power is shifting in the 21st century, not just through armies and missiles, but through industrial capacity, strategic partnerships, and technological sovereignty, this is a signal worth understanding. Brazil made a bet in 2013. The bet was, we don't just want the weapon, we want to know how it works, we want to build it ourselves, and eventually sell it to others. 13 years later, that bet is paying off. One jet at a time. If you want more stories like this, underreported shifts in military and geopolitical power that the mainstream press ignores, subscribe to Brazil Lens. I cover the world through a Brazilian perspective. The stories that don't make the front page, but probably should. See you in the next one.